Hey everybody, welcome to John's Briefs. Here today with Terry Johnson from Firearms Legal Protection. I would say my good friend Terry. Am I overstepping to say that?
Not at all. I think you're understating. Understating.
And we're here at Wilderness Tactical in Phoenix. And you guys know Wilderness is a friend of Active Self-Protection, so they gave us some space today so that we weren't looking at my boring green screen. And Terry had a really interesting topic that I want to talk about. And I think it's one that is not well understood, and that is jury selection in self-defense cases. Let's talk about it. Today's video is brought to us by Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners with a 24/7 emergency hotline and plans designed specifically for self-defenders. They are offering a discount on their plan to Ask fans, so hit the link in the description for that. Okay, so tell me about, from your perspective, now you're a criminal defense attorney.
Correct.
And have done this for a long time.
A long time.
And get to pick juries all the time.
Yes, and a lot of people truly don't understand. That's really where it happens. That's when the game begins. You get all the motions and everything. I mean, think of it like a football game, okay? You get to pick the referees. You get to pick the people who are deciding, hey, is this a penalty or not? If you think like of a college football game, when they go to a bowl game, you notice how they say, okay, we've got the refs from the Big Ten Conference.
Right.
Well, that means something different because they let you get away with certain things, as opposed to refs from the SEC or some other conference. So it's kind of the same thing with jury selection. You get people, you have to go through certain things with them, and it's a chess game.
Yeah, so the prosecutor gets a certain number of peremptory exits, right? Like, nope, I don't want that person, and I don't even have to say why.
Correct.
And so does the defense.
Right. Generally, it's right around 12, again, depending on the jurisdiction and things you're in, but it's around 12. And the big thing is when you start running out.
Right, so you only have so big a pool, and now you start running out, and you start going, am I going to take this person to that person? So as a defense attorney, what I really want to focus on this one for you, as a criminal defense attorney, let's just say you get a client who was in a defensive shooting. Yeah. What are you looking for in a jurist, and somebody that you want to impanel in the jury?
Great question. I really want to know, how open-minded are they? Okay, first of all, there are certain people I don't want on my juries. You'll say, Terry, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. You know the people I don't want on my juries?
Tell me.
I don't want people who, A, want to be there.
Ooh, interesting.
Okay, and the reason being is, if you want to be there, who wants jury duty? I mean, think about it. Who wakes up in the morning and say, wow, can't wait to go do jury duty today. This was fun.
Actually, the crazy part is that I've been called a couple times, but most of my adult life I was in the service, and so I never got called, and I haven't got called a whole lot of times. I'd kind of like to do it to know the experience. So, all right, that'll get me kicked off a jury. Now I know.
And the second type of person I don't want on my jury is people who don't want to be there.
Okay.
So now it's like, well, who do you want? This is how it comes down. I need someone, A, who's got time. And what do I mean by time? If this is going to be a 5-day trial and you've told the judge already that, hey, I've got a vacation coming up this weekend, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, we got to get this wrapped up.
Let's go. Yeah.
And if I don't, that person's either going to be mad at me or the prosecution. And their mind isn't going to be with me. Their mind's going to be on their fun vacation, maybe here in Phoenix.
That they're missing.
I don't want people on the jury well, let me back up. There are certain professions I don't want on my juries. And this is just me.
Ooh, this is going to get spicy.
This is just me. I don't, and again, nothing to my friends who are engineers out there, but I don't like engineers on my juries.
Why not?
Well, because with engineers, to them, everything has to make sense, logical sense, and not everything in a criminal
trial. The law never makes sense, so.
Exactly. So if I want you to, if I say, you mix green and blue together, you mix blue and yellow together, you're going to get green. I don't want someone saying, well, what shade of blue, what shade of yellow? I need you to focus. I love people from the healthcare profession. They have better interactions with people, in my opinion, like doctors, nurses, people along those lines.
So like people jobs.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Again, this is just me, but, I've had the people I don't want on juries, I've actually had them on juries, all three at one time, believe it or not, were police officers, teachers, and why don't you want teachers, Terry? And again, nothing against my teacher friends out there. Teachers have a tendency to latch on to the defendant with someone else that they've taught before.
Oh.
This reminds me of that kid in 3rd grade. I knew he wouldn't grow up to be anything. I don't want that perception.
Do you think cops do the same thing, that it's like, oh, that guy looks like, or he reminds me of this dirtbag that I arrested back in the day?
I believe a cop, and again, nothing against my police officer friends, they are going to believe the prosecutor.
I mean, they work with the prosecution. That's what they do.
Yep. So by working with the prosecutor, me or my client already start a step behind. So I had a engineer, a teacher, and a police officer on a jury, and still got a not guilty, believe it or not, in that particular case.
Yeah, I think that it seems to me it would make good sense to just excuse police officers from jury duty as a rule, because we need them doing their job on the streets.
You would think that, but they still would have to be there as a witness and other things as well.
Sure.
But, the question comes down to, you always ask.
And they're just citizens, I guess.
Yeah, everyone's a citizen. I mean, I've seen judges on juries. I've seen lawyers. It's really different. But the question becomes, how do you pick a good jury? You got to get a cross section of 12 people that bring different perspectives to the
and represent the community.
Panel. Yes.
Well, and so I guess what my first thought is that I'm thinking is not you're going to get excused based on your profession, but based on your ideals. So I would think you'd be asking questions like, do you own any firearms? Or have you ever been involved in a defensive shooting? Or do you have a friend who's been murdered with a gun or something like that? Does all that come up and be a part?
Sometimes. But here's the other part. You got to look at personalities, because you only get a certain amount of time to question a juror. And I don't want someone with a strong personality going in the back, taking the jury over
railroading a jury.
Yeah, based on what they believe. So I've got to balance all of that out. And then, you mentioned preemptories, and what those are, as John mentioned earlier, those are the people that you can just say, hey, I don't want you, I don't have to give a reason. You get down to that 10th or 11th person, and I start doing this. I start looking over my shoulder and seeing who's back there.
Right. How many we got left?
How many do we have left? And if I've got, let's say, 20 people and I'm down to 1 or 2 preemptories left, I have to play a game. I have to do it based on, believe it or not, looks. What do you look like? So if I look at you and I'm like, God, he looks like an honest guy. I think I can go with him. It's really a challenge. There's not a...
So you can't say, wait a minute, I've done my questions on this juror, I'm going to put them aside and do questions on another juror before I make my decisions.
Kind of.
See, I'm learning here, guys. I'm asking questions because I don't know the answers.
So think of it this way. You put 12 people in a box, or actually 14, and get 2 alternates. Yeah. And generally, and again, it varies by judge and jurisdiction, but what happens is I get to ask questions of those first 14. Once I'm done, let's say I thank and excuse juror number 6. Juror number 6 goes away, and we bring in a new number 6. Some places I can only ask number 6 questions.
Oh, I can't continue to ask the rest of the jury panel.
Correct.
So I've accepted all the other ones.
Well, I haven't accepted, I just haven't excused them yet.
I see, okay.
So someone may give me an answer like, I don't like guns, I hate guns, and I think anybody with a gun should go to jail. Okay, so am I going to excuse that juror right then and there? Probably not.
No, because that's a gimme.
Right. I know they're going to go away, but I know the prosecutor is just saying, yep, this is the person I want them, and I may have somebody who's a big NRA fan, a big Asp fan, they love John Correa, and, I'm like, yep, this is who I want. The prosecutor saying, nope, they're going to go.
Believe it or not, as crazy as this is, I know somebody who was asked whether or not they adhered to my philosophy of self-defense in a jury questionnaire.
Really?
Yeah, crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, see, you're famous.
Weird.
But the good thing is, as this goes along, we start to slowly pick off 1 or 2 at a time. As a rule for me, I never do. The judge will say you can do multiple. So some attorneys will say, I'd like to thank and excuse juror number 2, juror number 3, and juror number 9. I never do that. Judges don't like that with me when I do that, because the reason being, I want to see what my jury looks like. how many women do
Move
I
three
have?
pieces at once. And
Yeah. How many women do I have? How many men do I have? How many people from the suburbs? How many people from the city? How many people are retired? And we all make determinations of what they're thinking before they get there. So if I have somebody who's retired, who lives alone, in my head, they're more likely to be on my side if someone allegedly attacked my client. Or
right.
my client is accused of attacking someone. You have to get in those minds of those people, and it takes a while.
So what kind of things are fair game? I mean, is somebody allowed to be asked about their personal beliefs when they go to sit on a jury? So in other words, they say, because I've heard people say, oh, here's how you get out of jury selection. You just go, oh, I hate black people, and then they'll kick you off the jury and it's peremptory or whatever. First of all, I find that immoral, but does that happen?
You'd be surprised. Some people will say, here's the big question that really gets people booted. You're going to hear testimony from a police officer. Would you take what the police officer says as more accurate than someone else? And a lot of people say, well, if the police said it, I'm going to believe it. Well, guess what? The judge is going to say, nope, they're just like anyone else. Can
Right.
you do? Because the big thing in this is what's called jury instructions when it's all said and done. And that's after the trial's over and done, the judge is going to read the instructions that the jurors have to follow. So you just don't get to go in the back room and say, hey, what do you think? What's this? What's that? They're supposed to follow a set of instructions to help them come to a reasonable and just verdict in the case.
Right. And so I find it really fascinating that you're more looking at their profession and how they interact with people, and can you talk to them? Because really, I mean, at the end of the day, as a defense attorney, you're a marketing guy. You're selling a story. You're selling a version of events. And so you're asking the question of, can I trust that person might buy my version of events?
Yeah, and here's the other part that you really got to be careful of is you're on trial even before the trial starts.
Oh, tell me what that means.
So, for example, and I tell my clients this all the time, when you leave your house that morning, guess what? You don't know who the jurors are. So don't flip anybody off in traffic. Don't cut someone off. As you get in the elevator, at the building, at the courthouse,
Treat
make
people
sure
with respect.
respect, smile, the whole 9 yards. And everyone's looking at you when you walk in that room. You are completely on trial every moment. And so is the attorney, as a matter of fact. And that's the key. You've got to be able to connect with that juror. And I only have a moment or two to connect with them. And if I don't feel that connection, then more likely than not, I'm probably going to do what I can to get them excused.
Man, this is fascinating, because this is more like a psychology experiment than it is this thing. Because, I mean, we call the jury the finder of fact, right? They're the
Correct.
ones who are going to decide what actually happened and what was that in line with the law.
Right.
But I'd hope, I really hope that what we have, as flawed as it is still the best system out there, that we get 12 reasonable people from the community who make a good determination based on the facts presented.
You hope so. Let me tell you, I've done cases, and the prosecutor and I will scratch our heads at the end. It's like, how did they come up with that? We'll have a theory, I'll have a theory, the prosecution will have a theory, and the jurors come back with something completely different. And it's like, wait a minute, where did that come from?
I never gave you that option.
Yeah, and the other one that's rather interesting, you have to look at time. And what I mean by that is, let's say it's a Friday at 2 o'clock, and you get the note from the jury that says, hey, we can't come up with something. And sometimes you have the judge who'll come out and say, listen, you have an obligation to go back. You need to not abandon, your thoughts, but you need to listen to other folks, et cetera, et cetera. Soon as that's given, or right before then, the judge will say, if you can't come up with something, I'll bring you back on Monday. It is so amazing.
Bazinga!
Yeah, within 30 minutes, there's always the knock at the door. We've got a solution. We've got a verdict.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
So, I look at jury duty as a civic obligation, and I think that we should all do that. I look at voting as a civic obligation.
Yes.
I feel like we should do that. And so I'm not a big fan of people trying to get out of jury duty. So if somebody gets called for jury duty, how would you suggest that they kind of comport themselves as a potential juror?
Great question. To me, I want you to put yourself in that position. What if this were you? would you want someone trying to get out of jury duty? And in your mind, you may say, hey, I've done nothing wrong. Like a lot of clients feel they've
Sure.
done nothing wrong. But I want someone who's going to pay attention to the facts and pay attention to what's going on, not someone who's going to walk in with their mind already made up. You know, so what I generally ask the juror is, if you were sitting here, would you be a good juror for my client? And you'd be amazed at how many people say, no, I can't do this.
Wow. Interesting enough. So I think we have to be good thinkers. And certainly I would hope that the fans of Active Self-Protection Extra and Active Self-Protection would be excellent jurists, because you are trained to see what is good and what is not good, specifically in self-defense cases. And I think if we impaneled a jury of the best of ASP fans, we'd have a heck of a jury.
I want ASP fans on my jury.
Yeah, yeah, I bet you do. Terry, thanks so much for the information. This is fascinating, guys. I got a couple of more questions along this vein, but we'll have to wait for them for another week, because I know you got to get back to work and we got to do some stuff. So we'll see you again. Thanks, Terry, so much.
Thank you.